The question is, how do I avoid discouragement? You might think it's just for young people, but it isn't. It's for everyone, really. How do I avoid discouragement? I've talked to a lot of senior pastors, 40, 50, 60 years old, that are getting pretty discouraged. I had a guy call me the other day. He was a senior pastor, 65 years old, and he basically said, Bob, I'm just discouraged. I feel burnout. I'm discouraged. What do I do? How do I get that energy back, etc.? I say 3 thoughts. Number 1 is that you can't avoid discouragement 100% of the time, regardless of how old you are. I say every leader I've ever dealt with got discouraged at some point for some reason. So don't have an unrealistic understanding of how to avoid discouragement forever. Number 2 is to realize that some people get discouraged more than others. Some people had good models of when they were a child, their dad and mom were always up. They had, it's like everyone around them was always up, their glass was always half full, and they end up being sort of hard to get discouraged. And their glass is always half full. By the way, some people always, their glass is half empty. They grew up in a world where the glass was always half empty. And one of the things that was helpful to me and interesting to me was that, in fact, both are true. The glass is always half full, and it's always half empty. So the question becomes, what do you want to focus on? The empty part or the full part? And if you focus on the full part, what I'm doing that's right, what we've got that we didn't have last year, or whatever, if you focus on the half full part, you won't get discouraged as much as you would if you focus on the half empty part. Another thing is, whenever you get discouraged, look back. Don't look ahead. A lot of people think, if I get discouraged, I should look at the future, look at my goals, look at what we're going to do. Someday we'll have great dreams and all that. I say, no. When you're discouraged, you're tired, you're exhausted. It's time to stop for a minute and look back on how far we've come. When you look back, you'll tend to get encouraged. It'll be, we have come a long ways in the last 6 months. We've come a long ways in the last year. You take a deep breath, you take a shot of water, and you sort of rest for a minute after looking back, and often you're ready to move ahead again. So I say, if you only remember one thing out of this short video, I'd say remember this. Whenever, for the rest of your life, no matter where you go or what you do, you or your team or your spouse or your children or your grandparents or anyone you encounter get discouraged, because everyone will at some point, stop and look back.